I'm very excited to announce the actual library manager implementation. We're busy with the pull request. We should have it released within the next hour or so. I'm very excited about this. This new improvement is really going to make libraries very dynamic in JCB. Not that it has not been dynamic, it's just not everybody has realized how easy it is to add new libraries. So what I want to do is quickly, not too elaborate, show you how it used to be done. And then I want to jump into how it will work now. And you'll see why the new implementation is so much easier and so much better, and I think everybody is going to enjoy it. Okay, so let's get started on how it used to work. So if we go to a component and we open a component, there are 3 libraries that are already built into JCB that just works out of the box, and those 3 libraries can be selected with the add UI kit, add food table. Okay, let me see. The other libraries that are being added is when it detects basically some code in the certain areas of the script. So I'm not going to elaborate on that, it's going to take too long. Point is, these 2 you could select here simply by selecting, Now there's a new feature called dynamic, and that is part of what we will need to look at. Dynamic basically means that it is added in on the basis of the views that are linked to the component. So the old way, you had to come to the component and sort of tell it here, okay, I want UI kit and I want food table added. And you could tell him, what version you would like. Or if you wanted with the UI kit, you could actually set that it adds both versions. Now, with the improvements, you'd set this to dynamic, which basically turns off the global adding of the UI kit component, and then falls back onto the new implementation, which I will demonstrate with in a moment. So let's leave it on this the way it was. That was the first way of actually implementing some library. The second way, which was the way that you could now scale it, is if you were to go to settings, there is component files and folders that you could add. So you could click here and say, you know what, I want to add a library that isn't already part of JCB. Okay, so let's say you wanted to add Bootstrap. So you would say, okay, there is a folder in your component under Administrator, Components, Component Builder, Custom. And inside that folder, you'd place the folder for Bootstrap. So I don't have it here. Let me quickly do that. Okay, so now I'm just going to refresh this page. I quickly went and added a folder to this custom folder called Bootstrap. So let me just refresh this. So I'm going to again click here, and then there we have it. Select Bootstrap. Now I want Bootstrap to be added to the media folder, and since we do not do any changing of the folder name, we'll just leave that as it is. So basically you'll move this folder into the media folder. That's the way you would have done that in the past. Save and close. Now, having added the files to the component, you will then actually have to go to the view. So if we go to site view and this looks view, you'll have to, in the looks view, set that it actually now uses, now this is the new implementation, so I'm going to undo that and just say, okay, in the custom document script area, you would add this snippet in here. So you'd add a script. Now you know that you add the Bootstrap 4 folder to media, but when it gets installed to Joomla, it actually creates a component folder and puts the files in there. If you do not know how that will work out, add the folder, install it onto your Joomla website, and go look in the media folder to get the correct path here, and save and close. And that's how you would in the past have extended JCB to actually use other libraries than what's built into JCB. And okay, I illustrated that simply so you'll know that we could have done this before, but it was a little bit more complicated as the way it's going to work now. So now, with the new changes we've made, you can actually remove the files. If you have done this manual way, you can actually remove these files. Save and close. You don't need to add them in this way anymore. They will be added on another way. Now, I'm going to demonstrate the other way by actually starting at the libraries area. So I'm closing out of the component and I'm going to libraries. And you'll see that with the upgrade, there's now a Bootstrap 4 library, UIKit 3, 2, Food Table 2 and 3, and a no library, which is really only necessary when you create a snippet that doesn't belong to any library, just your own snippet that you want to use. So the snippets are now directly linked to these libraries. Now these libraries, these 6 that we've been shipped JCB with, should not be changed in relation to its name or its type. But you can change its behavior. Now the behavior is the file behavior. There are various file behaviors. Let's open Bootstrap to show you some of those. At the moment, Bootstrap is set on always add, and it is linking in basically a content distributed network a link, and it says that it should add it as a link. Now you can change that. You could say, no, I don't want to add it as a link, and you can edit this, and without making any changes to the link, you can change this to a local. And that what JCB will then do is during compilation it will download these files and add them into the component as local files, which would then be used instead as the link, which I think is quite nice. You could also do the same thing here as we did previously. You could add files from the same custom folder and also folders. Those are the same kind of implementation, except it's now done on a library level, so that if a library gets added to a view, as I will show you in a moment, it'll automatically use this files. So that means you don't need to do it per component. You basically do it per library, and as you link the libraries to views, it'll automatically incorporate these files into your component, which makes it a little bit less effort. You just set it up once, and then after you could just reuse. Okay, I'm going to change this to local, so now it will says local get. There is a few behaviors here. There is a conditional, custom script, and do not add. Now the conditional is still under development. All its functionality is already here, so you'll see all the links are showing up here. But as related to its implementation in the compiler, it's not ready yet. So for now, skip the conditionals option until you see that when you compile that it doesn't give you a warning. At this moment, if you compile JCB, it'll give you a warning that the conditional options are not available yet. In fact, we are planning to have them released with the next release, which would be 2.6.7. So any version, if you're looking at this tutorial after 2.6.7, then the conditional options are already working. So I'm going to just demonstrate it briefly. The conditional options works in two ways. One is you first need to add some configuration fields. Now configuration fields is basically fields that will be added to the global options of the component. And if those fields are tripped, it will have an effect on whatever way you set it. So to show you that, if you look here, you'd see there's an options area. If we click on the options area, that's now in a component, you'd see there is UIKit 2 settings, and it has a bunch of buttons here. Now that's basically the kind of buttons that you can build. So you'd first go and create the fields in JCB as you would normally create any other field, and then in the library come here and click on getting the configuration fields. So here I'm just going to select anything, so I'm just going to say add more, maybe as an option, and I want to create it under the tab called Bootstrap, just like that. So that's going to be the tab name, that's going to be the radio button, save and close, just as a demonstration. So now if I change this to configuration and I click on adding a configuration, and then I say I want to add the local, these two local files, I want them to be included when add more is set to yes. That's basically how this configuration of conditions will work in a relationship. So you won't see any option fields if you haven't created option fields in the configuration. So if you want to use this area when it is eventually getting, and will be ready, you will have an include and exclude option based on buttons, and then you'd select the files here that you want to be added or not be added based on these selections. Now these buttons obviously is part of your component parameters, and so within your code, when you start developing your templates and your layouts, you can draw upon these parameters in your PHP and say, okay, if it's this switch says that, then I want this HTML to load, otherwise I want that HTML to load. So you could have Bootstrap alongside UIKit with the same implementation, and so that's just giving an idea of where this conditional area is supposed to come into play. The area that I really like more is actually the custom scripting area, which really is giving us the same behavior as what we did in the side view, right? So we'll basically just add the same files here, and the only thing we'll change is we'll add component like that wherever we have the component name, because we want this to be dynamic. Or that needs to be 3 of those, so that if it gets added to any component, it'll dynamically update those names. As related to the fact that it'll use Bootstrap version 4, it really is using this name here, and it's putting a little dash between them and making it lowercase. And these two files are based upon those names there. So you basically need to use that name and that name, and it will dynamically detect that this is a CSS file and put it in a CSS folder, and the same goes with the JS file. So basically this is how you would do a custom scripting for Bootstrap 4, and that will be very similar to always add, because always add will basically write that script for you, and so you will just add the files you always want to add, and the behavior is like this. So really I'm trying to give you as much liberty as possible so that you can use libraries in any way you like. Write your own conditions, or your own custom script, or just let JCB add it always. Now I'm going to demonstrate how this adding always is going to work in a moment. I'm going to save and close out of here. So we have basically Bootstrap add always and UIKit add always. And UIKit version 2, we're using a built-in option, as same for the food table and the food table version 3. So the built-in options are only available for these 1, 2, 3, 4 libraries, not for Bootstrap, but for those 4 libraries. And any other libraries that you add will not have a built-in option unless we build one, and then it will become available. Okay, so that's just showing around the libraries. Now let's link the library to a view. So I'm going to go to a side view, and I'm going to go and open looks, as the side view, and basically I'm just going to select Bootstrap 4. That's all. The moment I select Bootstrap 4, the snippets that will show up here will then be the Bootstrap 4 snippets. Since we do not anymore ship snippets with JCB, you'll have to install some snippets. So let me show you that quickly. You'd go to snippets. Well, you don't really need to go to snippets. Okay, so the UIKit snippets are still being shipped, but not the Bootstrap 4 snippets. You'll then click on Get Snippets, select Bootstrap 4, and it will then load all the Bootstrap 4 snippets that are available to the community. You can then either use a bulk import, or you can import individual snippets for Bootstrap 4. Once it's ready, it will show you which ones are new. So I'm just going to add that snippet and say yes, I want to do that. And so it's basically installing it. And then I'm also going to take that one. It says, would you like to add it? I say yes, okay. And it also I've installed 2 Bootstrap snippets. The way to install all of them, since there's so many, is to use the bulk option. So you can actually come here to bulk, and you'll see that it has the new, and you can click on this and it will install all of the Bootstrap snippets. Okay, so that is the quick way of getting libraries, snippets into your system, and installing them just by clicking on Get Snippet, and it will basically do that for you. Now let's go back to site views, and again open the looks area. So now if I select Bootstrap, then we'll see those 2 snippets that I've installed, and I can click between them. And really that's just for you to get the snippet and to be able to add it into your into your code wherever you would like it to be, like that. Okay, so I'm going to do that. I'm just going to demonstrate adding the library. So selecting the library here is what will add the library to the component and actually to this view. So you can select multiple libraries for one view, but there could be a problem with that. If you, for example, want UIKit version 2 and UIKit version 3 on this page, but you want to have it only use the one or the other based on certain switches in the global options of the component. Now, UIKit version 2 was set to fall back to the internal built-in option, and UIKit version 3 was set to fall back to always add. So if we just look at that, okay, so that's always add and built-in. Now you want to actually have both libraries onto the page, but you want it to work within some custom implementation. So the way to do that is to click on New and use the bundler option. Select those 2 libraries like that. Decide how you want to do it, so it will be possibly a custom script, or it will be a conditional one, which you will then have to create. Obviously, let me just say this. So we could call this UIKit bundle. Well, let's call it just UIKit like that. And save. Now, once you've saved it once, you should now add the actual files. So you would go to folders and then add UIKit 3. Wrong button. UIKit 3 and UIKit 2, and you want to add them to the media folder. So you'll have to still link the files. Remember, selecting those libraries doesn't inherently clone its files. You'll need to still manually add the files. So now we've got version 3. Wait, why is this so difficult? There we go. The screen's not working along here. Okay, UIKit version 3 and version 2, and save and close. So now we have the files, and here they are as folders, and it shows you all the files and folders that are found inside of those 2 folders that you've added. So yeah, I think it's a little difficult. You cannot see which version is which here. This might be a good option to add maybe the folder name here. I think that will be in the next release. We will make that change. But I think the other option, which is also ideal for this kind of implementation, is a custom scripting, which you could still create the config fields. Excuse me. So when it's this UIKit version 2 is selected, it'll load the UIKit version 2 files. But you must understand, if you create the buttons, and it will be added to the component. But if you use custom script, and in here in the behavior you write the custom script, you need to let me just show you in the file. So in the file you see that it actually puts the parameters in params, this params. So you will need to, down here, get the UIKit, the switch, the button name that you are now have created to the config fields. You would then get the value, put it into a variable, and then based on that variable you would either add the file or not add the file. So you will basically write this script. If I was to just copy this as an example, all the way up there, copy, and go here, paste. This is basically what the custom script should look like. But that means that you created in the library config, you created buttons with those names, right? And that the values are related to these values here. The header check option is something that if you go into the file and you go look at the PHP, you might understand how to use this. And so the header check is at this stage always being loaded. If you don't want to use the header check, then you just don't use it. But you could go and try and figure out how the header check works, and then use it. Anyway, so that is making a bundle. Now let me save this as an example. And so now we got this UIKit, and it's a bundle. If we go back to the site view and we open that up again, we will now, instead of creating this one and that one, we'll just select that bundle instead, and that bundle will give me the UIKit version 2 snippets, and if we have any version 3 snippets installed, it will also load that for me. So I will be able to work with both libraries by selecting this bundled library option. And JCB, when it compiles, it will basically use the custom script that you wrote in the bundler to add it to the view. So let me show you that. So I'll save and close here, and let's go back to the library quickly and just do something silly to the code so that you will actually see its implementation. I'm just going to add these bunch of lines here, save and close, and then let's compile this. And install. Okay, let's look at the code. So now you see that it's added in this library files. Obviously it's also added in the originals, because we haven't set that button not to show. Let me just show you what I mean. In the component, you need to change the version uh, of the old library implementation, you need to change that. So now you need to change this from adding UIKit version 2 to basically to dynamic. Save and close. Now if we compile it now, you'll see it will not add that code to the file twice. It will basically just add that UIKit bundled code that we wrote. Okay, let's look at the code. So now we see that it only added the code that we wrote, and then remember in the file we added this as custom script. So we need to go remove this in the view where we added this in. So in the view we added these custom script. We actually didn't need to add the spaces, and we do have a little bit of a discrepancy there, but okay, I'm gonna escape this just so that you can see we don't need to add this in this way anymore. We can go here and basically do that. Oh, we still want that bundler in there as well. Okay, so we don't need to do this anymore. We can just basically select Bootstrap, save and close, and then I'm going to run the compiler again. There we go. Now if we look at it here, you'd see that there's that escaped code that we removed, and here is this code that JCB added. Remember I said to you that we basically in JCB we linked in, if we look at the library, wait, not here, let's go here, the Bootstrap 4 library, we said add always, and we're basically linking it from a link, right? And we just said local get. Now if we look at the code, we see that it wrote for us this path. So now let's check if it actually did add the path correctly. So we wanna go to the media area of the program, and then go to demo. And so we see it created the Bootstrap folder, and it added the files according to the path that it's also set here. So that it is really implementing the get option for the libraries. And all you really did is you just linked it to this view. This does give another situation where to every view that you want a specifically library to be available, you need to link it to that view, which wouldn't be a problem if you create a view now and just add your library and then add the snippets, and then you're starting afresh and you will actually select the libraries you want to use. But since you haven't done this before, older components, if you want to use a library in the view, you'll have to go and add it, or you'll just have to basically in the components area fall back on the old way of implementing the libraries that are built into JCB. So that means the old implementation still works. If you basically set it here to add both UIKit version 1 and 2 and 3, and also maybe to add food table version 2, those implementations still work. And doing that will add it to every custom and admin view where it's used. Custom and site view, custom admin view, site view, template layouts. So that's the old way, and that still works. It's just that when you want to start using like Bootstrap 4, you'll have to actually link it to the custom admin view or site view or template or layout where you want that specific library to be available. So if you link in Bootstrap over here, then it will be available to this layout and to every view where this layout is used. Okay, so that's just a quick demonstration of the new libraries implementation. We call it a library manager because of the diverse ways of you linking in the files and so forth. And we really hope that you understood and are able to enjoy this new implementation. We want to make it possible for you to add libraries and then basically share those snippets with the rest of the community. And so those of you that are interested in doing that, please watch some of the previous tutorials about snippets and the snippet manager, because I think doing this will not only help everyone else in the community, but will also get your name out there and get people connected with each other. Anyway, thank you for watching.